Welcome back to Hack Hunter, where we review some of the best and worst tattoo artists that are out there in your city. So, stick around. This is part number 2 of our Milwaukee, Wisconsin episode. And if you want to know who we recommended out there in Milwaukee, definitely go check out part number 1. But while the team was hunting out there, we also came across this gentleman. Enter Shannon Walton. You can find him on Instagram, ColorBomb76 on Instagram. He is the owner of ColorBomb Tattoo. We found their Facebook. They don't have an Instagram, but they do have a website. And on their website, you can actually see it's family owned. And he actually has some incredible artists that work there. Really, really talented people. And including his son Casey, who I definitely would recommend going to check out. He's a really skilled artist. But we're going to be talking about his dad's work. No, not so much, right, guys? I mean, I know this is supposed to be Americana style. It's supposed to be simplified, but man, something is just weird looking about this face. You can tell he really tried to oversimplify it to make it easy on himself, especially this crown of thorns. That is just as cartoony and silly as it gets. And then these petals here just disappear into his beard. I think that was just kind of poor planning on Shannon's part. But the nose, look at the nose, just so wiggly and scraggly, and the line just kind of stops right there. There's just a gap in it. This is something I saw throughout a lot of his portfolio. The line work just airs galore, and I had to zoom in on this one to show you. Look at the dots at the end of each one of these leaves. Every single one of them has a dot. Why is that? Well, it's because he's making a kind of classic mistake that beginners make, and that's when you start a line and then you move your tattoo needle where you started that line. If you pause there, it's going to create a dot, and so you're not supposed to start at the point. You're supposed to whip the line out to the point, whip the line out to the point, but you don't start there because you get a dot, and that's sort of day one shit for apprentices. So I'm shocked to see a 20-year veteran that's still making that same mistake, and I saw it a lot in his portfolio. Just really, really squiggly lines. You can see here he's not really that great at neck tattoos. This person's hands look like they were chewing on their nails. They're all kind of jagged looking, but really, look at that pinky. What the hell is that? It's growing out of the middle finger, or the ring finger there. It's just growing out and it's bending to the front. What kind of weird mutant hand is that? But there's so much wrong with this one too, though. I mean, these light rays here, he outlined them. If I zoom in, you can see he outlined them. And if you really want to go for that sort of ray of light look, you won't outline them. But a lot of artists are afraid they're going to lose their stencil, or they're afraid they're not going to be able to saturate the light gray properly, so they outline them, and it kind of gives it that kind of cartoony effect. That's unfortunate for that person's neck. But I saw these line errors everywhere. Right here in the claws here, you can see lines missing, shaky lines, just gaps in lines, just everywhere. It's just so strange that he would choose to do this. But I think it's kind of an old school tattooer thing. A lot of times I'll see that, and 10, 20-year veterans, for some reason, they would just leave weird gaps in places, and you can see it here. There's just missing gaps, and I don't know exactly why you do that. Also, this feather right here, this wing, it's supposed to come right there. You would see it right there. Where's the wing, Shannon? Where's the wing? It's too bad. And then this one, oh my God. Now, in the description, he said he was imitating a painting of the Grinch. And so I get it if this is some sort of child's painting of the Grinch, but man, this should just be a little bit better as a tattoo, especially for a veteran artist. You'd think he could have cleaned this up, but man, the whole thing just looks blurry, out of focus, blotchy. And again, just a gap in this line here. I just don't understand why you would not take a little bit more time to pre-plan it. And that's something that I just kept seeing over and over again. Here's a great example of it, where the center part of this lotus, he wanted to create a nice kind of glow effect, that center would glow and emanate off the rest of the lotus, but for some reason he just colored this one petal, and that's it. And then I guess there's some in the back here, but that emanation would glow across all of these, right? But he just kind of took the quick route. And again, of course, I zoom in, I see gaps in the lines here, and then, wrong one. There we go. And if I look like over here, why are these lines so thin right here, but then this one right next to it is so thick, So that shows me that he's trying to double back and fix lines, but man, when you've been tattooing that long, you should have mastered the single pass line by now. So that's something that you clients should look out for when you're looking for an artist. You want one that has very smooth, consistent lines. Here's one where at first I thought it looked good, right? It looks pretty decent, tiger. Then I zoomed in a little bit and I thought, wait a minute, tigers don't eat grass. What's going on here? Then I zoomed in more and I'm like, oh my God, those are whiskers. Just big, clumpy, thick whiskers. Let's zoom out there. Doesn't it look like he's eating some grass? That's just so strange. That was like one of the better ones I found out of all of his gray work. But then I started to realize in most of his stuff, especially animals, he kind of would cheap out on these small details. Look at the dots in this owl's head. We have seen some impeccable owls on this show, just some amazing ones. And this really just shows me that he didn't actually use a reference and try to copy it. He just did a couple dots here, couple dots there, called it good, and it really just kind of comes out looking messy in the end. It's really kind of unfortunate. And this is what I saw too much of. Way too heavy on the dark black. I don't know if this is a cover-up. I can't tell. There might have been something to cover up in there, but it's sad to say when you can tell something looks like a cover-up because it's so heavy dark. There's no reason for it. Unless this client, I can give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this client asked for something this heavy and dark, but to me, what I see when I look at this is I see an artist that's having a hard time doing soft gray shading, and that's something I've seen throughout his whole portfolio. He can't do that soft gray shading very well. So all of his black and gray work was just black and medium gray. Now, this is something that somebody wanted to cover up, and in the description he wrote that it was supposed to be a spacescape, and this was their first sitting. I don't blame this kid for wanting to cover up the hammer and sickle right now, but this is weird, right? Just a thin little stencil, barely any detail in there. Can't really tell what it is. Let's see how it turned out. Bam! What? That is not space. That's just a jumbled swirl of colors. It's so disappointing. Spacescapes are definitely the kind of thing where you need to have pre-planning. You need to have a great reference going into it. And you especially can't just put white dots in at the end and call it stars. That is just very, very cheap looking, and you can tell he really didn't want to put a lot of time and effort into it. The blending is also just really poor. This black of space should blend into this sort of quasar colors much, much better, much smoother than that. But you can tell he's just whipping it in really, really fast, and he did not have a good enough stencil to give him guidance on how it was supposed to look. So it just comes out looking like a jumbled mess. And believe me when I say, these white dots that he put in as an afterthought, they're not going to be white 2 weeks from now. Some of them might show through, but anywhere where he put white dots over black, they definitely will not show through. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of damage to the skin. Shannon, I think you've been doing it way too long. You might have been getting lazy in your career, but I cannot recommend it.